After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, my administration, by my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. This will be my final address to you from the American people from the Oval Office, from this desk as president. And I've been thinking a lot about who we are and maybe more importantly, who we should be. Long ago in New York Harbor, an iron worker installed beam after beam, day after day. He was joined by steel workers, stonemasons, engineers. They built not just a single structure, but a beacon of freedom. The very idea of America was so big, we felt the entire world needed to see. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France after our Civil War. Like the very idea of America, it was built not by one person, but by many people from every background and from around the world. Like America, the Statue of Liberty is not standing still. Her foot literally steps forward atop a broken chain of human bondage. She's on a march, and she literally moves. She was built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below. An engineering marvel. The Statue of Liberty is also an enduring symbol of the soul of our nation, a soul shaped by forces that bring us together and by forces that pull us apart. And yet, through good times and tough times, we've withstood it all. A nation of pioneers and explorers, of dreamers and doers, of ancestors native to this land, of ancestors who came by force, a nation of immigrants who came to build a better life, a nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever in the history of the world, that all of us are created equal, that all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness, that democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible. Our rights, our freedoms, our dreams. But we know the idea of America, our institution, our people, our values that uphold it are constantly being tested. Ongoing debates about power and the exercise of power, but whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example, whether we show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power or we yield to it. After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press, institutions that are rooted, they just might not reflect the timeless words, but they echo the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Rooted in the timeless words of the Constitution, we the people. Our system of separation of powers, checks and balances. It may not be perfect, but it's maintained our democracy for nearly 250 longer than any other nation in history that's ever tried such a bold experiment. In the past 4 years, our democracy has held strong. And every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans through one of the toughest periods in our nation's history. I've had a great partner in Vice President Kamala Harris. It's been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic, the heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe, the determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. And together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities, one of the greatest modernizations of infrastructure in our entire history, from new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every American. We invented the semiconductor, smaller than the tip of my little finger, and now is bringing those chip factories and those jobs back to America where they belong, creating thousands of jobs. Finally, giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for millions of seniors. And finally, doing something to protect our children and our families by passing the most significant gun safety law in 30 years and bringing violent crime to a 50-year low, meeting our sacred obligation to over 1 million veterans so far who are exposed to toxic materials, and to their families, providing medical care and education benefits and more for their families. You know, it will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come. At home, we've created nearly 17 million new jobs, more than any other single administration, a single term. More people have health care than ever before. And overseas, we've strengthened NATO. Ukraine is still free. And we pulled ahead of our competition with China, and so much more. I'm so proud of how much we've accomplished together for the American people. And I wish the incoming administration success, because I want America to succeed. That's why I've held my duty to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power, to ensure we lead by the power of our example. I have no doubt that America is in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy, just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to. Workers want rights to earn their fair share. You know, they were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. We've got to do that again. In the last 4 years, that's exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules, pay their fair share of taxes. So much is at stake. Right now, the existential threat of climate change has never been clearer. Just look across the country, from California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant climate and clean energy law ever in the history of the world, and the rest of the world is trying to model it now. It's working, creating jobs and industries of the future. Now, we've proven we don't have to choose between protecting the environment and growing the economy. We're doing both. But powerful forces want to wield their unchecked influence to eliminate the steps we've taken to tackle the climate crisis, to serve their own interest for power and profit. We must not be bullied into sacrificing the future of our children and our grandchildren. We must keep pushing forward and push faster. There's no time to waste. It's also clear that American leadership in technology is an unparalleled source of innovation that can transform lives. We see the same dangers of the concentration of technology, power, and wealth. You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risk for our economy and our security, our society, for humanity. Artificial intelligence even has the potential to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it. But unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work, and how we protect our nation. We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy and good for all humankind. In the age of AI, it's more important than ever that the people must govern. And as the land of liberty, America, not China, must lead the world in the development of AI. You know, in the years ahead, it'll help to be, it's going to be up to the president, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, the free press, and the American people to confront these powerful forces. We must reform the tax code, not by giving the biggest tax cuts to billionaires, but by making them begin to pay their fair share. We need to get dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaigns contributions. We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18-year term limit, time and term, for the strongest ethics and the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office. The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute, and it shouldn't be. And in a democracy, there's another danger to the concentration of power and wealth. It erodes a sense of unity and common purpose. It causes distrust and division. Participating in our democracy becomes exhausting and even disillusioning. And people don't feel like they have a fair shot. We have to stay engaged in the process. I know it's frustrating. A fair shot is what makes America, America. Everyone's entitled to a fair shot, not a guarantee, but just a fair shot, an even playing field, going as far as your hard work and talent can take you. We can never lose that essential truth, remain who we are. I've always believed, and I've told other world leaders, America can be defined by one word: possibilities. Only in America do we believe anything is possible. Like a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claremont, Delaware, sitting behind this desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. That's the magic of America. It's all around us. Upstairs in the residence of the White House, I've walked by a painting of the Statue of Liberty I don't know how many times. In the painting, there's several workers climbing on the outstretched arm of the statue that holds the torch. It reminds me every day I pass it of the story and soul of our nation and the power of the American people. There's a story of a veteran. This is a veteran, a son of an immigrant, whose job was to climb that torch and polish the amber panes so rays of light could reach out as far as possible. he was known as the keeper of the flame. He once said of the Statue of Liberty, quote, speaks a silent universal language, one of hope that anyone who seeks and speaks freedom can understand. Yes, we sway back and forth to withstand the fury of the storm, to stand the test of time. A constant struggle, a short distance between peril and possibility. But what I believe is the America of our dreams is always closer than we think. It's up to us to make our dreams come true. Let me close by stating my gratitude to so many people, to the members of my administration, as well as public service and first responders across the country and around the world. Thank you for stepping up to serve. To our service members and your families, it's been the highest honor of my life to lead you as Commander-in-Chief. And of course, to Kamala and our incredible partner, historic Vice President. She and Doug have become like family. And to me, family's everything. My deepest appreciation to our amazing First Lady who's with me in the Oval today, for our entire family. You're the love of my life and the lives of my love. My eternal thanks to you, the American people. After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
And this was our Joe Biden. And thank you again. Thank you for joining me. This is our actual news. We're transitioning to the news of the day. And today is January 15th, Wednesday. This was the farewell address by President Joe Biden, where he quickly turned into Dark Brandon. I did anticipate that. I had a bit of clue, but I didn't know that it would be so straightforward. Very much straightforward. He called for us to wake up and realize that America is falling clearly into oligarchy. This was straightforward as he could be. No, he did not name names, Elon Musk and whatever, but why would he? That's below him. That's below his level. But he did exactly address what is happening. The concentration of power among few people who hold the most money in the United States. He started by talking about Statue of Liberty and what it stands for, and that it is designed to sway, to withhold and withstand any storm. Fantastic. He wrote that speech himself, and this is a historic speech. We can say, again, history will always judge. People will always judge. We're going to say, oh, he could have done this, he could have done that. But let's just concentrate on what we have heard. And what we've heard is a historic president and a leader that is worried, that is clearly worried, where, in simple terms, he tells us, you voted for this. But wake the heck up, because that is what is happening right now. You voted for MAGA, for the hats, for the cheaper groceries, for protected borders, but what you got is oligarchy. He didn't call Zuckerberg by his name, but he said that social media is drowning us in misinformation and disinformation, and is now not even fact-checking the information. Everything we're discussing on our realms and our platforms, he said all of it. He said all of it. Hey Gary, good evening. Thank you, Joe, for a job better than well done. Indeed, indeed. And Skyman's Follies. Hello, good evening. I'll miss him for sure. And 4 years from now, even more. Exactly. Yeah. Hey Daisy Lou, good evening. His heart must hurt as much as ours. Yeah, indeed, indeed. Also, and I've heard that our first lady is really hurting. She's very upset about um the Nancy Pelosi. She said that they've been friends for 50 years, and this backstabbing is really unfortunate and worries her. She also did decline this tea situation. Remember when Trump visited Biden upon the election, and usually when presidents are speaking, the first ladies are sharing a tea, and so Jill Biden was ready to receive Melania Trump and have the tea and all that. And Melania Trump didn't show up. Then First Lady Biden, she wrote her a letter and was cordial and nice, right? And so now when they release this schedule, right, for the Trump inauguration day and all this 3 days of this YMCA bonanza, they said tea at the White House. And I thought, tea at the White House right before the inauguration, before the oath ceremony? That's weird. And so they kind of planned Jill Biden to play along and receive Melania Trump for the kicks and giggles and photo ops at the White House. And Jill Biden said, no, I mean, this is not common and it's not the right time and place. They can drink all the tea they want once they move in. I love it. I like how, and honestly, this is a conversation I had today within Honest Network, where I said, look, I report the news, but I also observe a lot. And what I am observing, that women are standing up and like putting their foot down. Michelle Obama is not going to inauguration. Joe Biden is speaking out. Even Melania Trump with that diddly-do clip on Fox News where she suddenly starts talking about, I'm standing on 2 feet, I have my own opinions, and I have this, I have my own budget, I'm independent. Why is she saying that? Why? What's the point, right? Is there divorce? Is there's this? Is she not playing along if he were to start a war? She doesn't want to be targeted. Is she going to be the one to take him down with the 25th Amendment? Who knows? But what I'm seeing is, and what I'm observing is, that including also Pence's wife, who didn't get up and didn't even shake Trump's hand, women are standing up and putting their foot down. It's different times. I'm very interested about it. I was asked by somebody in the Senate to host series with the First Ladies about the role of First Lady. And I'm actually honestly even considering it because they're speaking out. It's not going to be, Rose Garden. That's what I'm not interested in. But really, women are standing up and then putting their foot down. I would love to talk about that. If they're willing to, I would love to do it. Good for her. Hey, Jay, good evening. Good evening, Roberta. Good evening. Lovely prophetic speech from President Biden. He brought the truth. Exactly. And I think he's going to be judged for it as to, oh my God, you didn't, take away the election, yada, yada, yada. Folks voted for him. 70 million or whatever, 77 voted. Okay. Everyone will suffer. And he said that, look, I believe that we're designed to shuffle as much to stand. But, Roberto says Melania is moving into the White House. I was quite surprised to find this out. She said, look, you have to read between the lines. Whoever does her PR is definitely way better than whoever did it before, right? Whoever did it before, I guess, is the woman who wrote that book and recorded the conversation. The PR statement was really good. She said, I will be at the White House when I need to be at the White House, and I'll be in New York when I need to be in New York, and I'll be at Mar-a-Lago when I need to be, but I'm here to serve the nation. Focus on that, serve the nation. This is certainly not what Melania Trump could have put together by far in any language, but this is a statement. She didn't have to release it at 6 a.m. on Fox News. Pay attention to this. And I will go as far. I'm not conspiracy theories, but I am connecting the dots, and I would connect that to 25th Amendment. If that were to happen, I bet you she will be part of it. Think about it. Okay, so in other news, Vice President Harris this morning made a surprise appearance at the Martin Luther King's birthday celebration. His birthday is today, right? Although we are dedicating January 20th to remembering him and celebrating him, but today is actually his birthday. So the birthday event was hosted by it's an annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast hosted by Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King III, and his wife, Mrs. King, and at the Mayflower Hotel in DC. And so they didn't account for it, but VP Harris showed up. She talked to them. She spoke to them. She also said that it's a very significant day. Also, her sorority or fraternity, always. I'm European. Please forgive me. Also, it's a founding day today, so they connected the celebration. So it was a really important way to highlight it. And I think as President Biden is traveling to South Carolina tomorrow, it is important to see the vivid difference of what the Democrats are doing. And I'm not even saying Democrats, what Biden's and Harris and Emhoff are doing, and what Trump and Vance and Musk are doing. When it comes to MLK, when it comes to history, when it comes to acknowledging United States as one force, as one nation, right? As I say, I think this will be at least my line for the next 4 years. Watch the deeds, not the tweets. Watch the deeds. And we're going to talk about it, especially when it comes to this, Gaza ceasefire today. We first talk about national news, then we dive into international ones and global news. And I have clips and I have everything. And there is a clear preview about Trump's press releases and the White House. This will be, a shit show extraordinaire. Now, I will be covering inauguration. I want to state this, explain. I was invited by the Senate. The Senate chooses reporters from different voices to cover the inauguration, the oath ceremony. This is only the oath ceremony. It is not the parade. It's not the balls. It's not the tea and the signing. I don't know what else they do. Trump team did not credential me for anything. I contacted them. They said, you never covered any rallies. So, I get the point. So I will be at the White House on Friday, one last time, I guess, for the 4 years. And I'll have other things to attend there. But the credentialing for the oath ceremony is done by the Senate. They wrote a very wonderful letter. They said, we would love for you to cover it. We'll have some other interviews there as well. So, and this is a bipartisan, party or whatever, like their cabinet, whatever, that decides on those credentials. And so it's a whole process. They select you, then you go to their meeting. For me, it's Friday. You have to bring your, of course, credentials and everything, but you also have to talk to them. So it's very personal, and they're choosing people where they are positioned to cover the oath ceremony. So of course, they have TV cameras on the riser that climbing up, right, to have him in front of it. And so, and then the editorials where I am are right above the president who is delivering the speech. So for that reason, I will certainly have all the pictures of crowd sizes, because that's my location. So for that reason, for me, it's only the oath ceremony, and it's this historical event. It does not include any coverage of anything else. I really wanted to cover the Biden's departure. Today we were informed that they will be going at that point as private citizens to California, and they will be staying in near Santa Barbara, where they were after DNC. Remember that picture where they were next to like fireplace with the television, and they said we're cheering for Kamala Harris to deliver her speech at the DNC. So that house, and they're staying there after. Of course, Trump's team started making the big deal. Oh my God, they're going to prevent firefighters from, dealing with the fires. And, at that point, Biden's team said, look, they're private citizens. The Secret Service will be minimal, and get a map. California is large. So, they're not retiring. There will be a lot coming from them when it comes to, of course, women's health research, and they have announced it. But, deservingly so, they will have some time off, and then they will continue, and we will be staying in touch. Now, you have heard today from President Biden that we are drowning in misinformation and disinformation. And for that reason, this is unofficial. I'll put all official statements because I have to. Honest Network will be transformed, and we're in the process of transforming into a nonprofit organization that will be dealing with or fighting disinformation. What we will be doing, we have 3 directions. So one of them is continuing actual news. And perhaps you have seen on some social platforms already changing usernames to actual news. And actual news is something that is important, where I want to involve more reporters, more languages, to extend the actual news coverage beyond the United States, where people can listen, watch, and read daily, short, straight to the point, actual factual news. So that's part of it. Next, we're also going to have conversations with people like Joe Biden and like the First Lady and others from this administrations and those before, where we will talk about historical events and connect the dots with what is happening today. Because the history lessons and the, not everybody has to study history or political science, but really we're getting wiser when we know what did happen, what did it mean, So we're going to have those conversations where everybody will be able to join us. And young reporters will then have ability to provide essays based on these conversations, apply for to join Honest Foundation at that point, where they will be trained to report actual factual news. They will have at least, they would need to have 2-3 valid sources to report something. And by the end of the year, they will have awards where there will be different stages and they will be awarded. So for this reason, we'll have young reporters that will be trained to provide factual reporting. And also altogether, the aim is to restore trust and decency in factual reporting. And this goes beyond the United States. This is something where I've spoken to Scholz's team in Germany, and to their embassy here, to also France and Canada and everybody who's dealing with the right-wing disinformation. I do not believe that you fight disinformation on their platforms. You can't fight Facebook while posting on Facebook. They, it's like they control the tap water. So you're not controlling how much water you're going to get, right? That's the algorithm. They're controlling it. So how are you going to fight them while posting on their platforms? So we will be talking to officials, to different people, where we'll have interesting interviews, and the young generation can then be a part of the actual news movement at that point. And so my aim would be at some point not to do the actual news, but for young folks in all languages to do it, right? So just imagine, let's say 8 p.m. we're meeting, but then it would be in various languages, the same actual news by different people every night on everything, right? Including our app and all that. So then it becomes really powerful. Main disinformation, and this is interesting because I spoke to people who run this, like Nelson reports and all that. The biggest disinformation in the United States is actually in Spanish, because the Spanish-speaking world is completely controlled by right-wing. So if you consume news in the United States in Spanish, you're literally consuming pretty much Fox News. There is nothing that goes against it. Yeah, there are some YouTubers, there's some creators. And by the way, also the young generation of reporters, it does include creators. And it actually young, meaning it's not about age, right? There's some people who report news fabulously on TikTok, but they never learned how to actually formally report it, how to do proper research, how to navigate it, right? So that's the people who can join then and be part of it. And then by the end of the year, we'll have the awards and all that kind of stuff. Where you guys come in. So I think we were transitioning to the nonprofit thing. So I'll announce it officially when it's all transitioned. The newsletters and everything we're doing will be completely free for everybody, because we cannot rely on information as or the press as the fourth pillar if it is to pay for, even though we have this $5 a month thing. But I do acknowledge that for people it is an expense, right? We're not Netflix, we're not competing with Netflix, this is not the point. But everything will be free. The access will be free, and then donations, of course, will be encouraged. So if you're a paid member and you would like to contribute, this is not going to my pocket or anything. This is a nonprofit, so we will be opening, of course, our books and everything. So that is just helping our movement to do. Now, other story is that you call yourself honesters. And I take it to heart. This is really important. So we're going to have people who are honesters and are very much involved here, who are commenting, and I know you, and we communicate daily. So you will have the opportunity to be part of honesters, where you get the news first, and you'll be sharing them first, and you'll have all this access to our information. So just helping us spread the word. So if you're interested, you will have this type of sign up there as well. Again, we're completely becoming a foundation. And for that reason, our first thing is disinformation, providing information to everyone, right? When it comes to the news and facts and actual news, and other stories, educational, because we need to educate the reporters to be reporters and not clickbaity influencers. And secondly, education for also watchers, so we understand what are we actually listening to, so we can see what is a lie, what is truth, how do you detect misinformation, right? Because if something looks like a real website, how do you know that it's not true? For that, historically, it's very important, right? For instance, Joe Biden is very eager to talk about history because nobody else does, right? People don't talk about that stuff on television or social media. And so I think there is, people say, well, there's this hunger for quick news and clickbaity stuff. I think we're actually quite hungry for actual information that makes you feel like you learned something, and not like, oh my God, I need to take a shower because this shit that I just watched is like garbage. When I feel like I need to watch, some reality show to calm down, what kind of world are we living in? If after watching CNN or anything, I feel like I need to take a shower, I need to take a walk, and then probably a Xanax. That has nothing to do with news. That has everything to do with playing on your nerves. And so for that reason, heck no. Skyman's Foley says, it's wonderful. Oh, congratulations. This is awesome. Thank you. And I remember you were in the first our town hall meeting, so I remember. I appreciate it. Daisy Lou says, I'm excited for you and us. Your vision is so important. We need real news. Thank you. And Skyman's Follies, honesters, it's cool, not honesties. You guys vote. Listen, I called you. It was honesters. It was honest. Was it honest crew? You guys choose whatever we want to be called. When is the next town hall? Good question. So that town halls will be for the honesters, for the insiders. So you'll get the news and you talk about it, we'll share it and all that kind of stuff. So, and also the honesters will be invited to the awards and the gala that we're going to have by the end of the year. So that's a whole complex. So I'm going to share this. The website will be updated, and we changed to honestfoundation.org and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a preview to those people who are sitting here and watching. So a lot of things are coming, and I think now it's a very good time for that. I was looking for a good way to proceed from the January 20th on, and I couldn't find any way for a profit organization to proceed without bowing down, kissing rings, and all that kind of stuff, or be closed. A nonprofit way, that's that's the way where we can withstand. And also, it was the example that I shared today, where you planned to, let's say, take a trip from somewhere to somewhere, and you plan the altitude, right? And then you go up 38,000 meters or whatever, and it's turbulent. So then you can go lower or higher, right? So you have to change your altitude. So for this reason, we got to go a bit higher and start talking about global news, and which we're doing in the newsletter, and also include more languages so people can consume the news. When I open Russian speaking or Eastern European, like a YouTube, all of it is just misinformation. Ukraine is drowned in misinformation. These folks are praying for Trump to stop the war on January 20th. And I have exact readout today on what Putin is demanding. Like, that's just stupidest stuff. But people are drowning in misinformation. President Biden said it today. Okay, let's continue with the news. Now, TikTok, they can be shut down on Sunday. Now, TikTok plans to shut off its app for U.S. users on Sunday, when a federal ban on social media app could come into effect. But they will be, if you are paid creator on TikTok, they will be continuing to pay you for selling stuff, as long as the app functions and as long as you are selling. So this is just an update from TikTok. Let me update my notes, because I have a new one from Trump. Trump is requesting or planning to do an executive order, which is kind of weird because he's coming in on the 20th. So what's that order going to do? He's planning he's considering an executive order that would suspend the enforcement of the TikTok sale or ban law for 60 to 90 days, the Washington Post reported, citing two people familiar with the matter. Now, my question is, if this is ending on the 19th, what's that executive order going to do on the 20th? Roberto says, this will be 501c3. Yes. I get confused over which kind of classification. Yes, it will be. Yeah. So whatever donations you're doing to Honest, then you can withdraw it from your tax. Yes. That's the whole point. Okay. Apple's, we've heard that at the inauguration will be Bezos and Zuckerberg and Musk, obviously seated right behind Trump, right next to Hegseth and all those appointees. Yeah, confirmed or not confirmed. Now this row will be extended also to include Apple's Tim Cook and Google CEO Sundar Pichai. Also will be there Joe Rogan and all this MAGA podcasters. Not seated with the press, but seated right next to Trump as distinguished guests. Interesting. Now, Japan's Nippon Steel remains interested in working with incoming administration, obviously, because everything is for sale, to try to seal a takeover of U.S. Steel. Its vice chairman, Takahiro Mori, said in an opinion piece in Wall Street Journal today. So if you missed that, that's the news. Again, this presents a clear threat to our national security, because Japan is having elections, right wing is leading, and in the Indo-Pacific, everything that Joe Biden and his team have built, the coalition could be shaky if this were to happen. Now, U.S. imports from China finished this year strong after some companies stockpiled shipments of apparel, toys, furniture, and electronics ahead of President-elect Trump's plan to impose new tariffs that could revive a trade war between the world's economic superpowers. So because people are stocking up, that's why, the numbers went up in 2024. Again, a bit artificial. Yesterday I said, that Chinese economy is booming because it's very subsidized. So it's an artificial boom, and also artificially here, right? So announcing those tariffs beforehand actually did help China and didn't help anybody else. So, yeah. Now, what really was overlooked by the media, but I'm this boring person that is subscribed to USCIS, which stands for United States Immigration Services. Now, they are not part of federal government. That's why when you apply for a visa to United States or for a green card, you pay your at this point, it's $2,000. That is what sponsors USCIS. So these people, it's very difficult to introduce any change, but if a change is introduced and they announce it, that they have a reform and they changed forms and they no longer accept old forms, that means this came into effect and it cannot be changed. So it's not really controlled by executive orders or whatever. Borders are, but the immigration system itself and what is in those forms, it's more or less independent. Okay, so remember the talk about H-1B visas. Remember why Musk said that, oh, it's so needed, right? Because these people are underpaid. They need to work for that exact employer. They can't switch employers while they're here. They also work more hours and they're not paid for those overtime hours and stuff like that, right? So today, USCIS has updated H-1B and H-2 forms, where they say the H-2 final rule significantly strengthens worker protections by, among other things, imposing new consequences on companies that charge prohibited fees or violate our labor laws, and provides greater flexibility for H-2A and H-2B workers. Meaning, you can no longer mistreat them. You have to treat them exactly like a U.S. employee. Will we still bring the Indian population to work in Silicon Valley or not, given this? That remains to be seen. But that's a big situation for Musk and all that type of stuff. And mainstream media didn't even talk about it. Again, this was in the one tiny little email, just a regular update from the USCIS, and because I'm annoying, I read it. So an interesting thing. Big news, I think. Now, U.S. President-elect Trump plans to abolish the requirement for some producers of liquefied natural gas, the LNG, to seek export permit renewals, according to two sources with knowledge of the plan. So he wants to sell more and to hell with the renewals. Again, remains to be seen. Now, the CEO of one of the world's largest defense contractors, it's L3Harris Technologies, or do you pronounce it like L-Harris? I don't know. Told President-elect Donald Trump's government efficiency panel, the Doge people, in a letter on Wednesday that the Pentagon's vast contracting system is too slow and bureaucratic to effectively address the threats posed by China and Iran, and that it needs a reform. Yes and no. They have an issue with bureaucracy. I get it. They also have an issue of having priorities. For instance, they have worked with Lockheed Martin and Boeing for decades, and those are who are officially right away filling out any orders. If you're subscribed to Pentagon, I think it's open to public too. You can subscribe to get the contracts every night, and so you see the contracts that Pentagon is ordering from T-shirts and underwear to F-35s. You get contracts for literally everything. And when you do it, I mean, when it comes to attire or apparel, it's very local. So it goes to sort of tiny companies, and I Google sometimes those companies. Those are very tiny LLCs. So it's kind of like support small businesses. But when it comes to anything beyond, when it goes to 6 million and more, this is just Boeing and Lockheed Martin having a party. So I guesstimate this Harris Technologies person, or L3 Harris Technologies, it's interesting that it's Harris, he's not winning much in terms of those contracts. So is it true, or are they saying what Doge Department wants to hear? Remains to be seen. Now, the Democratic attorneys general of 14 U.S. states moved on Wednesday to take over the defense in court of a rule by the outgoing Biden administration providing health insurance to immigrants brought to the country illegally as children. So the DACA folks. What those 14 governors are doing is they're focusing on still providing the insurance to the DACA recipients. Of course, that's the first thing that the Trump administration wants to drop. Also, interestingly, and this is what I know from being in New York, we got letters that those who are part of, let's say, Medicare will hold their Medicare because of the New York state budget. They will take over what the federal budget will no longer cover, which are pre-existing conditions. So they say, well, because you're in New York, your coverage is continuing. I've heard that people who are in other states, specifically red states, got letters where they say your Medicare will only cover your emergency visits, and every time the doctor has to certify that, yes, it was emergency. You know, we'll see. Now, with Trump and his, the idea of Greenland, reporting that BD of directors of Walmart have made objections to Walmart abandoning DEI initiatives. Yeah, I mean, good for them. Hopefully Walmart will listen. Did Walmart donate that million, and will Walmart attend the inauguration? That's my question. Because if they did, then they're on the route of this Doge department situation. What else do I have? Wait a second. Okay, so Trump with Greenland. And that's what I told you yesterday, right? On the example of South Korea. On one hand, okay, they had a guy, prime minister, who declared out of the blue, he declared this the martial law to stay in power, kind of same thing that Netanyahu did, extending the deal and, then having a surgery, escaping his trial just to stay in power. Okay, it happens everywhere. But okay, on one hand, he was impeached, and they have another one. And then the other guy did not want to prosecute the previous one, got impeached too. Now they have the third one. On one hand, yes, it's democracy in action. On the other hand, North Korea might take advantage of it. Because if your neighbor that looks so tasty to take over is doing this shit show, they don't have really leadership. So if somebody will have, order military to do something, will military listen? And that's the situation, right? So when you start having your internal turbulence, your adversaries are watching, right? Because what you need, and then yesterday I talked about this one drop that can lead a glass of water to overflow. So, and I said that Ukraine, giving up Ukraine could be that one drop. Now, what could be also another drop is this creepy situation with Greenland and even discussion of it. Because today, who spoke about it? China. China said that Trump's Greenland bid steers a debate in China what to do with Taiwan. So for years, U.S. government has urged China to show restraint in pushing its claim on Taiwan and to drop military threats to bring the democratically governed island under its control. But now, since the United States is talking about military takeover of countries and buying them, then China feels very much open to have that discussion with Taiwan. You lead by example. What did President Biden say today? We are the power of example. We lead by the power of example, and by not by example of power, but by the power of example, right? And he posted that on socials earlier today. And MAGA said, "Are you drunk? What are you saying?" It's like they can't just process it. Okay. Now, in some video news, and let's actually talk about. No, let's not talk about it yet. One thing more. President Biden and his administration on Wednesday sued Southwest Airlines, accusing the carrier of illegally operating multiple chronically delayed flights and disrupting passengers' travel. The U.S. Transportation Department said in its civil suit in U.S. District Court in Northern California that the Texas-based air carrier had operated unrealistic schedules and should be required to pay maximum civil penalties. The Justice Department joined in the suit. So again, we'll see if Southwest also donated to the inauguration, but at this point they did. Remember, they also charged JetBlue, I think also $2 million. So for this reason, it is happening. Now, as to global news, and of course, the biggest news today is the ceasefire in Gaza. And I want to guide you through the process, and I want to show you the President Biden's statement, the video, the weird questions by the Fox News reporter, and ultimately the roundup of Trump's press release, which he says from the winter, from the winter White House. at Mar-a-Lago. Here's my release, all of it. Okay, so first, U.S. President Biden said that Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire and hostage deal that will end the fighting in Gaza and surge humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, the insights. Around 4 p.m. Eastern, we had a talk with somebody in Qatar. We're referring to him, let's refer to him as senior administration official because they asked for it, who was still in Qatar, who was there for a month, who did the entire negotiation, who was exhausted beyond means, and it was middle of the night, but he joined us. We had questions, and there was entire story how it all began. So here's in short. When the Biden administration spent over a year negotiating with Hamas, with the most intense stage of negotiations taking place over the past 96 hours. Biden spoke today to Netanyahu, and Netanyahu thanked him for working together for 44 years and knowing each other for 44 years. And Netanyahu said, look, if it wasn't, you who could pull the triggers with Qatar, who played a huge role, and Egypt, Sisi, remember yesterday Biden called Sisi, reported on it. If it wasn't for you to have this coalition and encourage them to stay on top of it, we probably wouldn't have gotten in it. I understand that Netanyahu probably says the same thing to Trump, right? But I'm just reporting. Now, when Biden met with Trump at the Oval Office after the election, he made sure to involve Trump's team in negotiation updates. He said, this is important because your team will be actually executing those stages, right? As Trump's team would be responsible for implementing the ceasefire stages. Now, what are the stages? Let's refresh. Remember May 27th when President Biden introduced them? And then it was also approved by the UN. So the 3-phase proposal, right? There's a phase 1 that I can see, a competitive ceasefire, a complete ceasefire, withdrawal from Israeli forces from populated areas in Gaza, release of a number of hostages, including Americans, women, and elderly. Now they also include sick and wounded. Palestinian civilians can return to their neighborhoods, surge in humanitarian aid. That's phase 1. Then you have phase 2, a permanent end to the war, exchange to the release of the remaining living hostages, Israeli forces withdraw from Gaza, temporary ceasefire becomes permanent. Phase 3, major reconstruction plan for Gaza, final remains of hostages are returned to their families. Now, let me guide you through, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So, facts separated from opinions. We continue. In recent hours, Trump's team has collaborated well with the NSC team, with Biden's National Security Council team, and the senior official in Qatar. Trump's team was informed. They were included in the final talks because, again, they will be implementing it. The ceasefire is for 44 days to begin with, and then it will be extended, for which Biden administration is thankful. They will now implement the stages put together by President Biden last year that were approved by the UN. Hostages will be exchanged for Palestinian prisoners on Sunday, January 19th. The elderly, women, sick, and wounded will be released first, followed by soldiers in the second stage. Civilians will have freedom of movement in and out of Gaza. Now, among those that will be exchanged on Sunday are 2 Americans that fit this description of the first stage or first phase. Those will be 2. One is elderly, another one is wounded. So as of now, Hamas has been solely taking refuge underground and is a shadow of the organization it was when it attacked Israel on October 7th. So practically, Israeli forces can operate anywhere in the region. And that's what the Biden senior official said. Essentially, IDF can walk the streets and run Gaza because Hamas is nowhere to be seen. They're so depleted. They're so lacking support or in any defense. They're literally underground. So Okay, the media now in that session has repeatedly tried to point it to Trump as the one who promoted this deal, which given this time frame that I just explained to you is not an accurate notion. It started over a year ago. Trump was not even the nominee officially at that point. Like that just makes absolutely no sense to even discuss that. Right? So having said that, let's move on. Okay. Next, what I want to show you is okay. So President Biden, oops, no. He walked out to deliver the news officially today. It was unannounced. It was sudden because they did reach this deal. He was together with VP Harris and with Secretary Blinken. So here's a little preview of what they have
which
announced.
Was embraced by countries around the world and endorsed overwhelmingly by the UN Security Council. The deal is structured in 3 phases. Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, and the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded. And I'm proud to say Americans will be part of that hostage release in phase 1 as well.
Okay, so after he delivered his speech, Fox News reporter, the blonde one, screamed to him the following.
Thank you.
Books credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you.
I don't know. Weird. Now, Starmer, right, UK's Prime Minister, issued a statement being very happy that the ceasefire deal has been achieved, and also saying that whatever you need from us to help you execute this, we're here for you. Same thing, Prime Minister Trudeau said the same thing. We are here for you to contribute as long as it leads to a two-state solution. Which brings me to the next point. Do I believe in stage 1? Yes, we're in it. Do I believe that we're going to be in stage 2? Right? The stage 2, to remind you, a permanent end to the war, exchange the release, Israeli forces withdraw from Gaza, especially also phase 3, major reconstruction plan for Gaza. I do not believe that we will be there. Again, my opinion is we will be somewhere in this Monaco thing situation with Gaza. And I think 19th is very short to the 20th. Seeing is believing. I want to see those 2 hostages, American hostages, being exchanged on the 19th under the Biden administration. I want to see it. Seeing is believing. We hear that it will be happening. I will be first to applaud and say that, I have trust issues. But will we be in stage 2? Will IDF leave? Given what I just told you, Hamas is so depleted they can run, just walk around the streets. Will they let Gaza people come in and elect a government and all that kind of stuff? I doubt it. I really do. Now, I would be very happy to be wrong on this regard. Now, as to Trump press release, then he sends this. President Trump secures Gaza ceasefire deal. First, it's president-elect. It's not a president yet. And he did not secure the Gaza deal. Anyway, so then he says, make no mistake, it was President Trump and his historic electoral victory that drove the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire deal, while Biden attempts to claim credit for the framework he introduced last summer. A deal could only be accomplished after Trump and his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, the real estate guy, intervened. Trump repeatedly said that there would be hell to pay if the hostages weren't released before he took office, and this agreement is a reflection of his unwavering commitment. If they believe that because he said that there will be hell, that's why this whole thing came through, God damn it, then you might as well believe in miracles and, I don't know, Santa and all that kind of stuff. I rather believe in Santa than in this, though. So, And that's White House press release. So I'm actually very happy. I'm given, that's why I was explaining to you, given the nonprofit and foundation, I'll have my hands full. So I will be at the White House if they let me sometimes, but I'm very happy not to focus on it because like this makes no sense. You're just gonna be misinformed. Do you have to be there to be physically misinformed? I don't know. Now, in other news, when it comes to the White House press briefing, Karine Jean-Pierre, who is, of course, President Biden's speaker, she thanked everyone and she acknowledged that she is the first in many ways, but hopefully not the last in her right to be the speaker. And also, Jen Psaki was there. Remember her drowning President Biden, which is unforgettable. But she was thanked for being there, for being first, speaker and press secretary, and she was acknowledged, she was celebrated, and whatnot. I will never forget how she, did that pass the torch situation. So, but listen, this is me and this is Psaki. Anyway, I want to show you that video where Karine thanked everyone, and just to acknowledge her, she has done a wonderful job. She never let Doozy Schmoozy or anybody else to shake her out of her confidence and her rightful position. So, it's a 2-minute video, and I would love for us all to watch it. So let's do it.
That is okay. The give and take that happens here is incredibly healthy, and it is part of our democracy. I have been honored to partake in it with all of you. Well, most of the time I've been honored to take it. But in all seriousness, I also said at the first briefing, I would not be here today if it were not for generations of barrier-breaking people before me. I have stood on their shoulders. I benefit from their sacrifices. I have learned excellence, and I am eternally grateful to them. And now I will pass the torch. It is my sincere hope that while I may be the first for many things at this podium, behind this lectern, I am not the last. I hope my presence at this podium has served as inspiration to many young girls out there who look at me and look at this job and look at what we've been able to do and have a similar background as me. And hopefully they can follow their dreams and never give up and know that you can achieve great things if you put your heart and mind and be passionate about it, no matter how many barriers you may need to overcome. Progress is not always a straight line, but we all must do our part. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday is indeed today, bend it towards justice and pay it forward. I hope that, and I and many barrier-breaking colleagues in this administration have played a small role in doing just that. Standing here and having served in this role for this administration and this president has truly been the honor of a lifetime, one I am grateful for and I will never forget. But it is a job I could never have done alone. And so finally, I do want to say a few thank yous to a few people in this room that I've gotten the pleasure to work with.
And so, where am I? I'm here. You've heard her. It's interesting. I just got an invitation to Pentagon honoring tomorrow Joe Biden at 2:30 p.m. And I'm in DC on Friday, for God's sake. Anyway, but I'm very happy that he will be honored. Only 30 reporters, Elena. It will be all military branches. Will be a parade, will be internal, and he will deliver a speech and they will thank him. So I'm very happy he's getting it. Trump did not get it, by the way, when he was exiting. Okay. Some videos I wanted to show you. Let me see. What was it? No, false alarm. Okay, let's continue with some global news. So remember Trump's team saying that Iran was behind those assassination attempts and they were so focused, blah, 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 blah. I know you can't trust Iran, but to play devil's advocate, Iran never plotted to kill Republican U.S. President Donald Trump. President-elect Donald Trump. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said in an NBC News interview on Tuesday, denying past claims from Trump and the U.S. government. So again, take it at the word. Department of Justice said that they did try it. So for that reason, let's go with what we trust. Now, Yoon Suk Yeol, that's the first guy who was the first prime minister with the martial law in South Korea who was impeached. He has been finally arrested. They attempted it 3 times. His protesters, well, his sort of think about like MAGA people with the Stop the Steal signs. They had Stop the Steal signs, and they were protecting his residence, prohibiting from arrest, prohibiting arrest. And so finally, at the 3rd attempt, he was arrested, and finally he backed down on Wednesday night after weeks-long standoff with authorities investigating him over alleged insurrection. A tough political survivor who became increasingly isolated halfway through his 5-year term, Yoon is 64, has been dodged by personal scandals and unyielding opposition and rifts within his own party. Now, Britain will give U.S. President Donald Trump, at that point, president-elect now, new government, his government, a new chance to review a deal with Mauritius over the future of U.S.-British military base in Indian Ocean, a spokesman for Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Wednesday. Now, this is a big mistake, huge. Like the pretty woman, huge. Why? That little island is right under China. That little island, yes, is people who live there historically are from Mauritius. They were under occupation of Great Britain. They have complained about it a lot. They do have a big, very important base, military base. That is US-UK military base. That might also have more than just regular capabilities, if you know what I mean. Which is incredibly important, because if we were, to do something in Indo-Pacific, this base is what holds China accountable, because yes, we are far, but we are kind of near because of that little island here. Now, what President Biden did, he negotiated that the people, right, they're free to travel to Mauritius. They can call themselves, they can be free. UK agreed. President Biden pushed Prime Minister Starmer to agree on that and just free the island. Okay? All good. But the base, this military base, will stay under US-UK governance for the next 99 years. This is a hugely important deal. Now, if Trump were to come in here and start messing around and selling the island to China, because he just doesn't understand why we need that goddamn island, because our missiles can fly into China easily from that island, but not really from mainland US. If he were to sell it, now that could be that drop with Indo-Pacific and Taiwan, because then, we don't have the reach, so to speak. Okay? Direct reach. So we'll see. Now, remember in Georgia, the country, they have the Georgia Dream Party that is pro-Russian. It's like a Russian puppets have been installed there to rule the country. 4 million people are protesting. They're still protesting with fireworks, with, everything every day, despite that it's winter and super cold there. Now, they have an opposition leader, Georgi Gakaria, a former prime minister of Georgia, who now leads one of the country's main opposition groups. And he was attempted to be beaten to death last night. He was hospitalized after being severely beaten late on Tuesday, a spokeswoman for his party told Reuters. Yes, of course, they blame Russians for doing that and attempting to kill him. No windows or teeth, but they went the physical route this time. But gladly, he did survive, and he's hospitalized. Now, Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, said on Wednesday she had spoken on the phone with Trump and told him that it is up to Greenland itself to decide on any independence. Good notion, but you can't bring a teddy bear to the gunfight. You are negotiating with somebody who really does not understand poise or intelligence or read through the lines. We don't even see lines, So with Russia's Lavrov, remember yesterday I said the foreign minister of Russia, Lavrov, said that, Trump should just do memorandum like we did in Crimea. So Crimea will just, became Russian without firing one gunshot. and he's advising Trump to do the same thing in Greenland. Denmark, really? Greenland is part of NATO. They're probably also drowning in disinformation. They need to understand that now they are under protection of NATO. And if they were to be independent from Denmark, then they're free for grabs, and all they have is ice. So we'll see. Now, Canada, I told you yesterday that Prime Minister Trudeau held like a minister's retreat today. And they gathered to discuss what they're going to do when Trump comes for you. So Canada will consider every kind of countermeasure if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump goes ahead with a threat to impose 25% tariff on Canadian imports, Prime Minister Trudeau said on Wednesday. So I'm very happy that they finally understand their value. Now, good news, and this is sort of our little quote of the day. Good news is has broken today for all those like me who would love to escape the Meta world and Meta platforms. Instagram and what else is there? WhatsApp and Facebook, certainly. You know, if you still keep your Facebook to see, you know, how people that you went to school are doing, or whatever. Are they fat? Are they ugly? I don't know. Anyway, if you still keep it, consider it, because the fact checking is one story, but also your data is for sale. You know, and the infiltration of propaganda, everything you click, suddenly you see everything everywhere. So just consider. But the good news is, and if you like blue sky, the skies are becoming a bit bluer for those who want to post pictures. More good news for those looking to exit Meta's social app ecosystem in favor of more open alternative. And independent developers building a photo sharing app for Blue Sky called Flashes. The soon-to-launch app is powered by the same technology that underpins Blue Sky, the AT protocol, and has been built using code from the developer's earlier Blue Sky client, Skeets. And also, Mark Cuban wants to invest in this Flashes app, so certainly we'll have this photo thing. Every time I post on Facebook, I'm just going to get like MAGA responses, and it takes time, honestly, to convert news into videos or posts. So Blue Sky, whatever, is quick because it's words. So I'm just rethinking, do I need to spend time on Facebook, you know, and converting the clips, or can I just let it be? Also, what Mark Cuban stated, that if this Flashes picks up, they can also integrate the video component. So if TikTok were to be banned, they can replicate it and continue it there. So certainly it's a very lucrative idea when it comes to TikTok Shop and all that kind of stuff, or replica of it. Now, U.S. Representatives Ben Klein, a Republican from Virginia, has reintroduced the One Agency Act, a bill aimed at transferring the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, that has a lot of issues with Musk and company, antitrust powers, to the U.S. Department of Justice, led by the woman who did not say that she's not going to obey Trump if you were to tell her to do something illegally today. Bondi, right? So this move challenges over a century of shared antitrust jurisdiction, exactly 100 years, between the two agencies, and is part of broader conservative efforts to limit government regulation, leveraging President-elect Trump's support for reducing federal oversight. So if FTC is sort of merged with DOJ and DOJ is not prosecuting, well, interesting. Okay, now the U.S. Department of Treasury has taken action against sanctions evasion network involving Russia and China, right, aimed at facilitating cross-border payments for sensitive goods. Additionally, a from Kyrgyzstan, right, republic-based financial institution that coordinated with Russian officials and a U.S. designated bank has been sanctioned. Also, Treasury is redesignating nearly 100 entities linked to Russia military-industrial complex under executive order, warning foreign individuals and institutions of potential secondary sanctions if they engage in significant transactions with these entities. So, again, this all is good. Will it change if, you know, when Trump comes in, right? Secretary Yellen today received an award, delivered a speech. She's retiring, so there will be different type of management. So we'll see how that will stay, because one of the things that Putin demands is getting rid of all the sanctions. And so that would be the first thing. Now, President Biden announced today that an additional 91,500 workers and retirees affiliated with Unite Here will have their pension benefits safeguarded from potential future cuts, thanks to the provisions of his American Rescue Plan. These workers, many of whom serve in vital sectors such as hospitality and transportation, are often overlooked but play a crucial role in the economy. The newly approved benefits ensure that these individuals can look forward to secure retirement. In his statement, President Biden highlighted that the decision is part of the administration's broader commitment to support workers and bolster the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. So thankfully, these workers are sort of protected. Now, with today's announcement, the Biden administration has extended pension protection to over 1.3 million workers and retirees. And so in total, these actions will help secure the retirement benefits of approximately 2 million Americans. So that's good news. Also, what is good news, and it's related to investing in women's health research, but also Cancer Moonshot, the program that has been started by Biden's. So nearly 3 years after Biden Cancer Moonshot was reignited, significant strides have been made in the fight to end cancer as we know it. On the occasion of this milestone, President Biden and his administration convened key leaders and advocates in the meeting to celebrate the ongoing efforts and achievements under the Cancer Moonshot Initiative. So key accomplishments are protecting 100 million Americans from harmful chemicals like PFAS and taking steps to reduce smoking rates, the leading cause of cancer death. Next, also addressing missed screenings due to COVID-19 with a focus on equitable access to care. Also establishing ARPAH to drive innovation and breakthroughs in cancer treatment, and enhancing support services for cancer patients to improve care access and affordability. And so in addition to these accomplishments, several new actions were announced to now continue advancing the goals of the Biden Cancer Moonshot. And again, when I'm saying Biden's are not retiring, that's what they're going to focus on, the Cancer Moonshot Initiative and also women's health research. So the FDA proposed rule, a groundbreaking proposal to set a maximum nicotine level in cigarettes to reduce addiction and prevent smoking-related cancers. Also, National Cancer Institute will double its funding for research into early onset cancers, focusing on cancers affecting younger populations. A new guide to improve the efficiency and access to clinical trials for cancer patients. The CDC will also support community groups in addressing cancer risks from environmental factors. And the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs will expand access to genetic testing and at-home colorectal cancer screening. And by the way, they brought up, and I think it's also FDA approved at this point, over-the-counter medicine that has healed 99% of people with specific colon cancer. So if that's of an interest to you, please research it or ask me, and I'll put it in our newsletter. So other notable contributions include efforts from Prostate Cancer Foundation, Vision Gate, and Zero Prostate Cancer, all of which aim to improve early detection, access to care, and survival rates among high-risk populations, particularly veterans and underserved groups. Also, on this regard, as to prostate cancer, I remember that something really ugly today, where the Trump DOJ said that they will conduct an investigation into Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin when he had to have surgery when he had prostate cancer. And so where he did not report that he is going overnight for surgery, he was under medication. Meanwhile, he didn't appoint anybody to be in charge. So they want to investigate him for sort of misleading the public while he was getting treatment for prostate cancer, which is like disgusting. Was it wrong? Was it right? I don't know. But the point of bringing this up now is like interesting. Now, today was another confirmation hearing. Sean Duffy, President-elect Donald Trump's nominee to head the U.S. Transportation Department, he made pretty much two significant statements. First, he argued that electric vehicles should pay to use the roads. He says that because currently road maintenance is largely funded through tax on gas and diesel, which EVs do not contribute to, they need to pay for the roads. Now, I posted it. You guys provided so much in the comments where, of course, it depends on different states. But when you register your EV, you pay certain tax. And so people seem to be taxed for the roads, construction or whatever refurbishments that are needed. But anyway, Duffy acknowledged the challenge of implementing such fees, but stressed the need for EVs to help fund road usage. Now, also in addition to his stance on EVs, Duffy addressed the ongoing investigation into Tesla's full self-driving system, right, that crashes into parked cars. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, opened an inquiry in October into 2.4 million Tesla vehicles equipped with FSD software following 4 reported collisions, including a fatal crash in 2023. Now, Duffy, he's a former lawmaker, stated that he would allow the investigation to continue without interference, despite Tesla CEO Musk's close ties with Trump, to Trump, who has previously criticized these actions. Now, it's interesting that he says that once and if he's approved, do we expect him to continue that investigation? Do we expect him not to be prohibited to continue the investigation? I think, was it Daisy Lou who said, or Roberto said today, I have a bridge to sell you. Exactly. That's the bridge. Now, interestingly, remember the underwater cables. I have 2 news pieces and we're done. Please stick with me. The underwater cables where Russia, with Chinese help, is cutting them off for Baltic states and Sweden and Finland. They messed up and cut their own, and yesterday their internet went down and all that kind of stuff. But they blamed Ukraine for cyber attack, which is BS. Now, today, in response to recent undersea cable incidents in the Baltic Sea, Anne Neuberger, the Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology, now under Biden, led a discussion with her Nordic-Baltic counterparts from Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway, and Sweden. The meeting focused on enhancing cooperation to protect critical undersea cables, essential for global communications and energy infrastructure. So essentially what they talked about is they reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening collaboration through NATO and implementing the New York Joint Statement on the Security and Resilience of Undersea Cables. So essentially, they will be patrolling the area in air and the sea, and they will also reduce the bureaucratic paperwork where something has to be prevented or fixed right away, right? Because now if cable is damaged, they need to go through all this bureaucratic work to dispatch somebody to go look at it, investigate, and then fix it. So they will shorten the time from this procedure, and also they will start monitoring it. And in air and also seaside. The discussion also centered on practical measures to bolster protection efforts, including improving real-time situational awareness, enhancing public-private partnerships for repair and maintenance, and establishing systems to track cable faults and repair timelines. So, thankfully, finally, very late, but okay. Now, my last story is about Putin and Ukraine. And this was first reported by Bloomberg, citing their sources inside Kremlin. Who are you? Do you go close to windows? Do you like tea? Don't do nothing of it. But anyway, so there's 2 things. Now Ukraine is talking to Russia in Qatar. Why? Because the talk it's not Putin and Zelensky, it's the teams. What they try to do is to push Russia to sign off on the notion that the atomic sites, or that the sites are not legitimate military targets, right? Because the electric grid has been targeted in Ukraine. Now, if we're gonna F around and find out with nuclear bases, then all of this goes to nothing, and very quickly. So for that reason, in Qatar is facilitating those talks to sign off on prohibiting those things to be seen as legitimate military targets. That's one story. Now, Vladimir Putin plans to demand that Ukraine drastically reduces its military ties with NATO and abandons its ambitions to join the alliance during upcoming negotiations with Trump. That is what Kremlin is putting out. Putin believes that he holds upper hand on the battlefield, which he does not. He seeks to transform Ukraine into a neutral state with limited military capacity. So he said, I don't like it that NATO is giving this equipment to Ukraine, which can be used against me to push me out of occupied areas, which is kind of the deal. So he wants to retain control over at least 20% of Ukrainian territory with potential for territorial exchanges. Now, occupied areas are less than 20% at this point. So he kind of wants to enlarge that. He also wants the demilitarized Ukraine. So meaning nothing will come into Ukraine. They will be passive. They're not going to join NATO. They're not going to do anything. Now, he changed his notion when Biden administration was, before the election, talking about or listening to Russia proposing any negotiations, the talk was, okay, maybe Ukraine should not be joining NATO for 20 years. That's what Kremlin was saying. Now, with this final level of negotiations with Trump, they say fully. Ukraine is neutral, is never joining NATO, not receiving anything, demilitarized, just bend over type of thing. Also, what Putin is saying that he sees this Istanbul agreements from March 2022 as the basis for this negotiation. Now, largely, those agreements, whatever he proposed, are meaning complete capitulation of Ukraine and the occupied territories. Now, on one hand, what I reported yesterday in the Kursk region, where Ukraine did the incursion, the heaviest fights are coming that are going on right now, that are compared with Avdiivka and Bakhmut, that are sort of the symbol of destruction and really death in Ukraine. Now, on one hand, Putin wants the Kursk region, so for that reason, he mentions territorial exchanges. Will this be for Kharkiv, right? I'm going to, give me Kursk, I'm going to give you this, give me this, I'm going to give you that. Obviously, it's not going to be an advantage for, or a territory that is advantageous for, or like an advantage for Ukraine to gain instead of Kursk region. So for this reason, let's not expect anything good. Now, in the recent opinion piece, which was published yesterday in the New York Times, U.S. Secretary of Defense Austin and Secretary of State Blinken stated that Russia has suffered from over 700,000 casualties since the war began. They argued that Putin now faces a difficult dilemma: continue with high casualties for minimal gains, risk a mobilization that could destabilize Russia domestically, or negotiate seriously with Ukraine to end the war. They further emphasized that cutting aid or pushing for a premature ceasefire would only enable Putin to rest, refit, and eventually re-attack, describing such an outcome as peace through surrender, which would not be peace at all. That's exactly what I agree with, too. Now, in addition, as I reported yesterday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that in Helsinki, he said Ukraine is not in a strong enough position for peace talks with Russia. At this moment, clearly, Ukraine is not there because they cannot, at this moment, negotiate from a position of strength. We have to do more to ensure that by changing this trajectory of conflict, they can reach this position of strength. And so, again, the negotiations with Putin, first of all, wrong timing, wrong notion, more demands from Putin. If there's no aid for Ukraine, can Ukraine rely on NATO? I don't know, without US contributing, not much, not for long. EU, we'll see. So for that reason, let's see what will happen. But that is at least what I'm getting from, the demands from Putin's side. Good news is that if Trump did not agree on anything yet, if we're still talking about potential negotiations and whatnot, that probably will be in Saudi Arabia. at least we don't have, a yes from Trump yet. So, but he's not president yet either. Also, what I want to mention that Putin, unlike any other people in MAGA world, he does understand that he's not going to talk to somebody who's not in official capacity to make decisions, which at this point is President-elect Trump. As much as it sounds like a president, it is not. So after the oath, that's when Putin will start seriously taking Trump and talking to him. Right now, it would mean BS. Whatever Trump would agree to, he's not president yet. Biden is president. So for that reason, Putin does understand that. For that reason, do not expect any talks to happen up until then. But until then, if Trump were to break the aid flow or disrupt anything that Biden administration has dispatched, then this will be a clear sign that anything will be happening. Also, what we see from yesterday's reports, where NATO is now boosting their support for Baltic states and their defense, and also Lithuania and Estonia and Lithuania and that side as well, which just shows us that they're trying to secure the sites or the directions that Putin can go once Ukraine is conquered or has fallen, so to speak, or conceded. So for that reason, we'll see what will happen. Okay? All right, we're done. I bothered you enough, but I had Biden's speech first, so I wasn't about an hour. So again, thank you so much for joining. Do you want to see a cute clip of here? A bird. Take a look. That's to finish on a good note. Here's a cute clip. This bird reminds me, how I read my the new press releases from Mar-a-Lago. It's like trying to figure out. But this bird flamingo stands on one leg, so you didn't learn it yet. Anyway, thank you for joining. See you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. I have a meeting before, so it's going to be later. 9 p.m. I'm going to be live. We're going to be talking. We're going to be discussing everything, and your newsletter is coming right now once we are done. Okay? All right, stay peaceful. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't listen to this Senate approve whatever hearings. Don't do that. Don't spend half a day engaging with this unless you like it. For me, it just raises my blood pressure, and I prefer to be anemic. I have a bridge to sell you. Yes. Sierra, good evening. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Sierra. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. See you tomorrow. And let's stay peaceful. Okay, let's do that. See you tomorrow. Have a good night.